Okay, good afternoon, lovely people, and welcome along to another 3ds Max 2016 with me, Miles, here in 2017. So, today we're going to hopefully advance a little from where we were at yesterday into making something a little more useful in the form of a model, or models actually, I should say, of, as you can see, a little chair with a little matching table there. Now, these are obviously rather simple pieces, but you got to walk before you run, as they say. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be knocking these two models up. Shouldn't take you long, it's not too difficult. So let's get to it, alright? So the first thing, actually, I'm going to just save these up because I haven't actually saved them, and you never know. It's a good idea just to save your work. Table. Okay. So, new scene. Alright, new scene, and let's just bring up the grid for a moment. Okay, and a zoom extensor. And okay, so we have a fresh new scene with nothing much in it. Before we start modeling today, we're going to set a few things up to make life not necessarily easier, but definitely more realistic, shall we say. In fact, so what we're going to do is go to the customize menu and set a few things up in the units setup. Okay, so unit setup, this is where we actually decide what we're going to work in terms of units, whether it's metric or US standard imperial, or should you so desire your own custom units. When you go into this, when you first boot up 3ds Max, you're probably going to be working here in generic units, which is like the program's own units, which don't really bear any relation to anything that we're working with usually in the real world. So I'm going to be working today with metric, and because we're making furniture, it's not too large. We could go with either millimeters or centimeters. Today, I think I'm going to go with centimeters. Keep it nice and simple. And yeah, that's it. So units, metric, centimeters. Okay. So we've chosen our units. Before we start modeling, still one more thing that I want to make some little changes to, and that's this thing here. If you right click on this little magnet here, the snaps toggle in the toolbar here, this little magnet with a 3 next to it, you will bring up the grid and snap settings. Alright, so let's clear all of those. Actually, we're not interested in these are the snap settings for the moment. What we're interested in is, first of all, is the home grid, and what I want to do is set this value in here to a spacing on the grid of 10. Alright, if you've just come from generic units first time, it's probably going to read something like 25.4, okay, which is no good. Excuse me, I have something in my mouth. There we go. So that's better. So grid spacing was set to 10. With major lines, every nth grid line, 10 also. So that means every 10th grid line we have a major line. The perspective view extent to 7. We can change that if you like, up to, why not, 10 also. Oh no, why not 11? Yeah, these go up to 11. If you get that joke, leave a note in the comments. Where did that joke come from? These go up to 11. Alright, now we've got our units, centimeters, we've got our grid, spacing set to 10. Okay, what else do we need to do? Let's just set up one more thing. Okay, in the snap settings, clear all on the snaps and then choose grid points. Okay, so that we can snap to the grid points. Okay, and then just make sure that you have actually turned on snapping, that is, it's highlighted in blue. Okay, now to create our chair or table, let's go with the table to begin with. The chair is actually just slightly more, well, it's the table with a few additions. So we'll start with a box. Okay, and we'll start in the top view. Let's Alt W to the top view to make it maximize the viewport, and I'm going to drag out a box somewhere towards the center, but it doesn't really matter exactly what, and I'm not going to worry about the exact dimensions. So click to finish that off. Let's go back to see the 4-screen viewport, and okay, so there we go, there's my box. It's approximately the right size, but not exactly. So what I'm going to do now is go into the parameters for the box, and I'm going to bang in a value of, let's say, 400 for the length and width, and the height, let's set this to 50. Okay, actually that's enormous, isn't it? I've just realized I'm still thinking in millimeters. So let's change that. Sorry, let's take a 0 off each of those. So that'll make that 40 and 40 and 5. Yeah. So same proportions actually, but let's zoom extents all, and now we have. This is the basis of our seat. Okay. So as you saw, I created it without too much care about the exact dimensions, and modified them once I've created the initial approximate box. Now what I'm also going to do at the moment, this box is sitting not exactly on the center, so let's just move it somewhere more towards the center. And actually I'm going to do this by selecting, and as you can see down here in the XYZ values, just bang in a 0 there. Now my box sits in the exact center of the world. I'm going to turn off snaps now because I've done with that for the moment. Okay, and let's zoom out so we can have a look. You can see this from all kind of angles, and zoom in, zoom out as we were doing yesterday using the middle mouse button. Okay, so that all looks fine and dandy. Okay, what I'm going to do now is go back into my create panel, and I'm going to create another box for the legs. This time again I'll go to the top view. I'm going to zoom in a little, and again I can use snaps, and I'm going to drag out a box that, and you can see that the snap will actually make it snap to the size of the grid. Alright, and what I'm going to do is just finish that off at any height, doesn't matter, and now I have something like this back in my perspective view. Okay, now as you can see, hopefully, okay, the proportions of this as a leg, again let's turn off snaps now. This is a little bit chunky really. Okay, so let's go back and change these parameters on the length. I'm going to set the length to 5, the width to 5, the height I'm going to set to let's say 40. Okay, and there we are. Alright, so we've created our seat and we've created one leg so far. Of course our table needs 4 of those, so let's just hold down the shift key and drag another copy, okay, off to the side somewhere. Now you'll see here when you create a clone that what you're actually creating is either a copy or an instance or a reference. I'm going to talk more about these further down the line. For the moment, we're just happy to go with copies, because this isn't a large, heavy model. It's more efficient actually to use instances. As I say, I'm going to talk more about that further down the line. And my music stopped. What's happened? Just bear with me 1 second, people. I can't work without my music. All right. So what's happening here is where's my cam coming in just a second, I hope. There's a leg, there's a see, that's where we're at, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is, if I go to the top view and I click and hold on shift, I'm just going to drag out a clone, and I'm going to make this clone copy an instance copy. The reason for that I'll show you in 1 second. Let's just make 3 copies of that. Okay, so there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4 legs now we have. Alright, now why are they instances? The reason is, and what's an instance? We have an original and we have 3 copies. They are instance copies, which means that any changes I make to any one of them, actually, like the height for example, is going to be instantly updated to all of them. Alright, so all of those instance copies will take on the same parameters, which is pretty useful in something like this. If I decide to tweak the height of this table or whatever, I don't have to do them one by one. Also, it makes for a slightly lighter model, which is more efficient, quicker to render, That'll be important later on. Alright, so we've got our table top, we've got our legs. What we need to do now is obviously just kind of position them, okay? So to do this, let's turn on our snaps toggle and turn on vertex. Okay, and if I do that, I should be able to just drag each into position using the corner vertices to actually position each of these legs. There we go. So that one wants to go, which corner is it? That corner, right? So there. Okay, I'm doing this in the 3D view, as you can see. That corner wants to go there, and that corner wants to go there. That's all good. Alright, et voila, there's our table. Alright, a kind of chunky, simple, with the joints expressed kind of table, but yeah, not bad for our first time out. So let's save that up. Get in the habit of saving your work regularly, people. And this is my second version of this, so I'm going to say that side table 2. The reason being, 3ds Max is pretty good and pretty stable, but like every other program on the market will crash from time to time. So it's good to have your work saved. There's an auto backup feature. I'll show you how that operates sometime down the track, but it's usually on by default. It saves your work, automatically backs up every 20 minutes, something like that. You can make it more or less frequent as you desire. Okay, so there's our table. Alright, let's just have a look at this from all angles. Okay, and yeah, if we do a quick zoom extent selected, and now we can spin around and look at it from all views. I mean, yes, okay, it's a simple enough object of 5 standard primitive pieces, but that's what you gotta do when you start out, right? You walk before you run, is it? Yes. So let's try and just add a little to this now and turn it into the matching chair. Okay, so to do that, we'll start with one of the legs here. It doesn't matter, anyone, because they're all identical, obviously. Now, remember yesterday we looked at the constrain tool by using Z. I can constrain the movement is constrained on any axis, but in this case the Z axis. So if I'm going to make a copy, okay, I can constrain it on the Z axis. I make a copy, by the way, sorry, let's just cancel that. I make a copy by holding down the Shift key. Alright, and as I get to the top of the chair, I can let go and it should automatically snap to that correct point. So I'm going to make a copy this time rather than an instance, because I want the back of the chair to be independent of the legs. So let's make that a single copy. And to do the other one, let's just spin this around, see it from the other side. Exactly the same process. We want to hold down the Shift, constrained on Z axis, and using snap with vertex, that should find the correct place. Okay, there's the back, almost done. Okay, just got to put the cross members on there. Okay, to do that I'm going to use the select and rotate tool in conjunction with this angle snaps toggle. This is a useful little tool to get in the habit of using. So if you right click on it, you can see that the angle in the options here, the angle is set to snap to 5-degree increments. Okay, so that means like when I'm rotating something, okay, once this is turned on, it rotates in 5-degree increments, as you can see. Okay, which makes it very easy, for example, to rotate something 90 degrees. Now you can also, again, hold down Shift key and make a copy. And again, I'm going to make this a copy rather than an instance in this case. Okay, so that's now rotated through 90 degrees to act as a cross member. And I'm going to, oops, not you please. I'm going to move this up into the correct position. Again, I'm going to use, I'm going to try and use snaps to put this into the right place. Maybe I need to turn, there you go. No, come on. Hey, there we are. So now we have one cross member across the back. For a little more finesse, shall we say, I'm going to make another copy of that. Just slide that down a little ways, not too far, not all the way. I'll make this an instance because this is basically the same thing. And there we go. There's my finished chair. Look at it from all sides, just check the proportions are to your liking. You know, we could, for example, make a few tweaks to this that would improve it dramatically, but I'm just going to leave it there for the moment and not complicate things today. What I'm going to do, just to finish off, is show you how to group things so that we can now select this chair as one single object, one entity, if you like. Alright, so what I'm going to do is select all of the components just by dragging a marquee around them, or you can use, if you prefer, Control-A on the keyboard. Okay, once I've done that, I go to the Group menu item and just group and give it a name, like something useful, like chair. Alright, and now you can see when I click on the chair, it's highlighted by a sort of bounding box, and you know, I'm selecting and moving it as a collection of objects, which is my chair. Alright, and what I'm going to do now, I'm going to again shift copy, drag to make a copy of the whole group. I'm going to name this the table. Alright, because I've kind of lost my table now in the process somewhere, right? So now I've got two chairs. How do we get back to the table? Well, what we need to do is just select the second chair, the one that we've just made there, go to group and ungroup it. Alright, so now we're back to components basically, and then I'm just going to select them one by one, delete the bits that I don't need. So now we have back to our original table with the matching chair. That's about it. Turn the grid off. Let's have a look from all sides. Everything looks pretty good, I think. That's about it for today. Your intro to modeling with simple primitives in 3D Studio or 3ds. I'm old, you see. I use 3D Studio. They told me to call it 3ds. The S stands for Studio. Whatever. Yeah. So I hope you've followed along with that okay. I hope you've enjoyed your little intro and first time out into making something coherent in 3ds Max. Any questions, fire me an email, hit them, write them in the comments below. If you like this tutorial, cool, say so, hit that like button, okay, that's how I know I'm doing good. If you don't like it, you know, then I'm somebody else, okay. And yeah, that's it for today. I'm going to be doing some more of these pretty soon. I hope you let me know if there's anything that you haven't understood or you would like to see in more detail, and I will do my best to accommodate you. But for today, that's it from me. Take care, go easy on one another, and I will see you the next time.